Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Gary Hayes, and we're here in order to tell stories about Edom in the olden days. And some of us are the oldest ones around. One's a little younger. We could brought him here for our memory and for entertainment. But this will work out, we think, because we're playing it by ear, and that's the best way to do it. I want to start off by introducing myself and try to establish my bona fides as a narrator of Edom Old Times. This is, if we could pass that around, that's a picture of my grandfather's house, which was right here across from the bank, straight across from the bank. And that was the corner of the old farm that went to the bottom here, from here to the bottom. And that picture is 1911. And and then I also have a picture of my parents, just to show that it's real. It's not Bonnie and Clyde, it looks like it, but they were in the same era. So I myself was born in 1938, right down here, less than half a mile down the road, in that same farm area. And we're going to start off by telling stories. And since I got to be first, I'm going to tell my favorite story first, because I'm afraid they might steal it if I let them go. This one is about Rufus Moore and his hamburger joint over here in the building which now is the birdhouse, Joe Hopp's birdhouse place. Believe it or not, that building's been there a long time. It was an all-night, as far as I know, all-night cafe. Because this road that you're looking at right here, it in our time was the main road from Tyler to Canton to Wills Point and Dallas, okay? And there was no 64 up there. In fact, this was US Highway 64 right here. There was no Interstate 20, of course. And so there was a lot of truck traffic here. This would have been World War II times when we were like 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And there was a lot of truck traffic during the war and in the post-war. So the truckers would stop here a lot because it became a famous, word-of-mouth, famous eating place. One reason it was famous was that he used pork sausage, a certain mixture, which was his secret, the proportion, into his beef hamburgers. And so he had 2 hogs down here. He lived right down that road, across from the bank, the little driveway that goes there. He had 2 hogs down there, and it was scheduled one fall day for my uncle to come up and help his wife, and they were going to butcher these 2 hogs. But it was one of these hot, sticky mornings, East Texas. And they got together and they commiserated a little and decided it's too hot to kill hogs. Of course, we don't have any young people here, do we? I was going to explain to them, it's got to be cold weather to kill a hog.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, you'll be the one? Okay, good enough. Oh, I didn't mean that as an insult. I mean, you're all younger than me, so what the heck. So, one of them got, I guess it was my Uncle Cobb, got designated to come up here and tell Rufus Moore, who was running that thing, that they were holding off on killing the hogs because it's too hot. Made him mad because they weren't doing exactly what he told them. Took his pistol, went down there and shot both hogs in the head. And said, I guess by God now you'll do what I told you to. Get on it. So they got on it, and as soon as they got hogs strung up and they got going, they saw this big dark cloud up to the northwest. And then a wind started kicking up. You know how it does. It was a blue norther coming here. And he knew about it because all the truckers coming from Dallas were stopping and telling him, there's a hellacious northern behind us. We just got ahead of it. And as soon as we eat, we're going to go on to Tyler, Longview, wherever the hell they were going. And so that's the story of the weather forecast, or lack thereof, in the old days of Edom. And speaking of the places, you know, at another session, if we ever have another one of these, if we ever have an audience next time, we'll point out what was in that building, and that building, and that building in the old days, because most people have no idea. And so that'll be kind of a part of some of our talk today, I'm sure. But I'm gonna get off the bar stool I'm on and turn it over to, you want to be next, Larry?
Yeah.
Okay, Larry's got, he's
Okay.
got his aids and everything. Go ahead on.
Larry Murphy, born right here in Edom. I'm the senior, year older than you. Yeah.
What an honor.
Anyway, my dad owned the grocery store, which is Potter Brown's. And a lot of stories went through there. He had not only the grocery, mercantile store, but one thing was the bus depot. And let me see. Anyway, this shows you, maybe if you'll get that. As people would come in on the bus, at the time, Edom didn't have a bathroom or restrooms anywhere. So they would have to get off here to go to the bathroom. Well, it was common knowledge that behind the store in the woods was called the holler. Not just holla, but it was called the holler.
Yeah.
You know. So if somebody needed to go to the bathroom, Daddy would direct them to the holler. And for that reason, now, you can close your ears if you don't want to hear this, but it was actually called Turd Holla. And everybody knew it as that.
Yeah.
Well, back then, some of you might remember, fruit came in individual wrappings. And as they would get off, Daddy would hand them some paper. They would go to the holler. And that's just one of the things that happened. And growing up as boys, I don't know how we ever made it. Mr. Mazzell had the blacksmith shop right here. And he didn't care, you know, the way people are now, they would have a fit. But us boys, we would go in and play in the blacksmith shop. He had a huge, I don't know what you call it, tamping deal that. Hammer, yeah. It had a ring at the bottom that you could step on, and that hammer would just, I mean, it would come down on you. Well, we would play around that, you know, very dangerous. And then he had the bellows, and we'd get there and we'd get to turning that thing until it got red hot,
Yeah.
you know. Well, that was very dangerous. And another thing we did on the other side of Rufus Moore's Cafe was the ice house. Had blocks of ice in it. Well, what we would do is we would put somebody in the ice house and see how long he could stay. And it just so happened that there was a deal that you could push in there to get off, you know. But that was just several things that we did around here. because there's probably not an inch of ground that we haven't set foot on in here.
Absolutely,
Is that right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Underneath the road,
The what?
underneath the road right there.
Oh, yes. Between Rufus Moore's and, what at one time was a service station, there was a drain that ran all the way from the holler, and the grate is still there underneath up to the Experience. And we would get in and crawl all the way up through the pipe, all the way up past the Experience, you know, and just this little cover, spiders, snakes, everything else.
And worse.
And worse.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
does it come out?
Where did it come out?
Hollow.
In the
But
holler.
you start there, but then is there
The water ran in up there.
There's a grade over here and there's a grade on this side.
okay.
Yeah, and drained all the way down through.
Can I ask a question about the hamburger place? Is Moore the Moore of Moore store?
No, I don't think so.
I think maybe they had to censor us when you talk about the holler down there. They took the microphone away.
Oh.
They might be censoring their language.
They do.
Huh?
Yeah, yeah.
That's believe.
So, also, on the other side, I just spoke of the drain, on the other side of that was a service station, Pat Boyd's service station. And it was the gasoline pumps was the free flow type, where you would have to pump, he would come out and he'd pump the gasoline up. If you wanted 5 gallons, he would pump it up to 5 gallons, and gravity would put it in your car. That was the way that worked.
How much was it a gallon? How much was it a gallon?
Oh, gosh.
7
I
cents,
I
don't know.
remember 25 cents,
Wow.
right over here.
cheaper than that.
Gary, will you tell the story about Rufus Moore's Cafe and the hog?
I told that already before you showed up.
Okay,
Yeah, that was the first story.
it's the best story.
I took it because I was afraid they might tell it
Okay.
Yeah.
if I let them have it.
They may have a variation thereof.
Oh, but there's a lot of stories that we could tell about the Rufus Moore's Cafe.
Oh, I know, plenty more, yeah, plenty
Yeah.
more.
I've already issued my disclaimer.
Let's hear
You,
another
you
one.
ready to turn over to Buddy, or do you want?
Yeah, Buddy's.
Well, my name is James Buddy Hutchins. I was born in 46 here in Edom and lived here, up to now. What Gary was telling you about Rufus Moore's store over there. And, I guess, is it all right to call your daddy's name? My uncle?
Yeah.
My uncle, Gary's dad, and his running mate, Pud Foster, was up here on the weekend, big weekend, and they run out of anything to drink. So you had to go between here and Brownsboro, and you could get it for 50 cents a pint, half pint. So together they decided they'd get one of these old red roosters they had and carried it up here at Rufus Moore's store and asked him if he'd buy it. He said, oh yeah. Said, put it in that cage behind the store, which he had a little feed room back there. I guess all the little stores had a little feed room, didn't they? Your dad had a
Oh,
little
yeah,
feed room.
yeah, sure.
And they come around and got their $1.50 or $2.50, what it was, and within about 2 hours, they run out of that good stuff. So they just went back around there and got that rooster out of the coop and brought him back around to the front, and they sold him again. And as they headed out the door, Mr. Rufus told them, said, look, boys, that's the last time I'm buying that rooster. When y'all get done with your drinking, go on home. And Murphy's store, your dad sold me shotgun shells one at a time. He'd open up, I didn't have no money much, maybe a nickel or dime, and he'd open up a box of shells and sell me a shell, one shell at a time. If I had 15 cents, I could get 3 shells. Well, that's probably 3 ducks or 3 squirrels. And did I show you that check that's been run through from your daddy's store?
No, I don't think so.
Well, Gary's grandpa and my grandpa was a justice peace here, Grover Cleveland Smith. And since I mentioned his name, your other grandpa was named
Andrew Jackson Hayes.
Andrew Jackson Hayes. So Grover Cleveland and Andrew Jackson was his grandpa. But Papa evidently tried to collect it on this check, this hot check. And that check is just a plain old check from the bank that every bank offered in a little booklet. First State Bank, Ben Wheeler, First State Bank, Brownsboro, First State Bank, Van. Well, they took a wooden pencil and they made that check out. But it was Brownsboro, and they wanted it to be Ben Wheeler, so they took that pencil and drawed a line through Brownsboro and wrote in Ben Wheeler. Unbelievable to this day's standards that you could do that. I don't guess he got by. Well, I guess you did get by with it. he gave the man a hot check. And our other uncle, Leaderdale's husband, Robert Williams, was up here in Edom. And kind of the weekends was a time to come to Edom. You didn't see too much activity other than work. But on the weekends, it had a little boom to it. And he was up there prowling around, and this local bad guy who went to the prison for killing a guy.
Not Asheville over here.
Yeah, it happened over toward Primrose, but he was up there prowling around, and that guy got after him with a knife here in Edom.
Oh.
And Robert broke and ran, and he said, I ran till I was nearly out of breath. And what was that guy's name? Tudor Hollifield?
Tudor, yeah,
Oh.
Tudor Hollifield.
Tudor Hollifield. And he said, man, I was just about done. I run into Lester Murphy's store, and I went to the back, and there were some plow handles. And he said, I grabbed up a plow handle, and I said, look, the little chase is over. And he said, I started chasing him with a knife. But he was really a bad character. He's the one that cut Buddy Bird's throat, just cut into it. We wasn't trying to decapitate him, but he's practicing. That's what he was doing. And caught some whiskey in an old fruit jar and made Buddy drink it. Caught that blood in an old fruit jar and made Buddy drink it. He didn't want to, but he seen how that knife was shining, so he decided he'd drink it. And that station that you was talking about, that little station in there,
Yeah.
while I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure there's some sort of tank buried between the birdhouse and the edge of that building, that next building. Ernest Shin built that building for Pauline Wood to have a cafe in. And but while I'm thinking about it, for anybody digging and messing around, I think there's something there. So be careful. But my grandpa run that for a while. And the oil, he's talking about pumping that gas up, the oil come in quart jars like that, and they had a kind of a lead funnel that was threaded to fit a mason jar. And that's where they got the oil. You could pump out you some 10 weight, 20 weight, or 30 weight, or whatever. I think probably 20 and 30 was common. But he run that, and that's the only job I know that man ever having. You?
Who's that?
Papa.
Oh, well, he was a JP. That's a job.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Yeah.
I guess you can call that a job. But
You ever done
But-
it? Have you ever done it?
what's that?
That job?
JP? No.
It is a job.
I expect it would be now, but
Yeah.
back then,
Oh, yeah.
well, let me put it this way. Somebody come up here with a hog that was loose. So you estray that animal. And you make public knowledge of it, I guess in the paper, maybe back then. And if nobody claims it, you can sell it and get the money. You can take it. So Papa, Grover Cleveland Smith, and Jim Dyke, were partners on this pig. I guess Jim found it and Papa helped us stray it. And where it's written, it says Poland, China, sow. Poland, China, sow. They strayed that thing. Later on, they sold it for $6 and split the money. So, times were different back then, for certain. For certain. But no, Gary's dad had an old white horse he plowed with. And he told me that he had him trained to go from one stake to the other. Stake your rows where you can keep them straight. And he said when the old horse come to a hill and he couldn't see that stake, he'd rear up on his back feet, get his bearings, and then he'd go forward. Now, I don't know all about that, but I do know this, when he made syrup, Uncle Sam worked for us at the sawmill. My grandpa moved here with a sawmill right beside your grandparents' house.
Yeah.
Now, I guess Red and Susie owned it then, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's where they set up, and then later bought 10 acres from old man John Saylor's, where we at now. Down here about a half a mile on the right. And what was I gonna tell you? What?
Syrup.
The syrup, yeah. When we'd cut some ash logs, the slabs that come off, the first cut's a slab, and there's generally 4 of them. As you turn the log, slab. As you turn the log, slab. And he'd save them ash slabs. Ash was used back then in all the old wood cook stoves because it was a fast fire, a hot fire, and die quick. You didn't want to keep the house all heated up, especially in the summertime. So he'd save that, and when they make syrup, he liked that flash fire. Now I think he always cut a bunch of willow, didn't he? Didn't he? I think he cut a bunch of willow and let it dry out, and that's quick, real quick. But that ash timber done real well, and of course, when you get ready to do syrup, he'd have to go get them slabs, and I rode that old wagon. Oh man, I'm telling you, this road was pretty firm then. I don't know if it's as well paved as it is now, but that thing would hit a pebble, and it felt like he run over a brick. I made about 2 trips, and I said, look, that's enough for me. It's killing me. It's just too rough riding. So I got off of it, but Dad and several others would always help with the syrup, and we took our pay out in, well, back then it was gallon buckets.
2 1-gallon buckets.
Yeah.
2 gallons a day.
A gallon bucket is a big bucket of syrup. And I don't know how many Dad got, but he always slid it under the bed. And then that's what we eat on all winter, was we had syrup for winter.
You know, you just gave me another story about that wagon.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're coming out of the field down there below the Redbird after a work day, and there's some men in the wagon, and they let me drive. I'm little kids. So I'm driving, and here they are. They've been working 8, 10 hours down there in the heat. They're tired as hell riding that rough wagon. And I drive along, and I hit more than pebbles, sometimes pretty good pebbles.
Pretty good rock, huh?
And on the last one, before we turned up 2339, bumped one, and this one guy said, "By God, you missed one."
Let me tell you about that syrup mill down there too.
Oh, yeah.
And the cane patch. We was stealing cane down there one night.
No.
That's right. I don't know if it was your
I
daddy
remember it. I was.
Sambo.
Yeah, it was on Sambo shot y'all.
Yeah, shot above us. You know, of course, he wasn't shooting at us, you know.
I heard the pellets hit the leaves.
I'm telling you.
He's shooting up, letting it.
Yeah, and then they would pile all of the chew, we call them cane chews.
Yeah,
You know.
squeezings.
And that's where we played, you know, see who could knock somebody off the top of the cane
Can they?
pile, you know.
Can I ask where that is again?
It's right by, the cane mill?
Yeah,
Right by the Redbird, where the Redbird Cafe is.
on this side or that side?
on that side. It's all grown up now, but it was cleared. It had a mill like that thing in Ben Wheeler.
Yeah.
And speaking of that fire, there was a regular, traditions there. About all the workers got paid 2 gallons a day. Field workers, mill work, and that was $6 or 2 gallons. Except the cook might be called a chef today.
He would be.
He's the
Yeah.
cook. He's the cook. He got more than maybe it was 3 gallons, but he was the one who would say he would be skimming or checking the thickness of that syrup, and he would he'd say shake a fire, and the fireman would get up there with a poker and he'd shake it up. He reminded me of this because you need to flare up quick heat or quit. Otherwise, it might overcook, see. So it was some skill involved there. And he would say, had some other phrases about, new wood or something like that. And one I remember is, shake fire.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what the mule got paid for pulling.
That mule, he just got home, he was allowed to go home, get in the feedlot and eat,
At dark.
about dark. Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
I think, was your daddy's pan a copper pan?
I don't know.
Most time they used a copper pan for cooking that syrup in, and depending on the type of pan it was had a lot to do with the cook,
Yeah.
and the cook also had to know about the sugar and the cannel. Being a chef, he was probably top shelf because you had to know your business cook syrup.
Yeah.
If you run it, you run the whole thing.
Burn it?
I mean, yeah, or get it too much till it turned to candy. Put it in the bucket, and 5 minutes later, you done got yourself some candy. So you got that's an art, a lost art, sort of like the blacksmith. When that old Mazzelle, was that Crumb Mazzelle?
Crumb.
Crumb?
Crumb, yeah, Crumb Mazzelle.
That-
Another thing about that,
Uh-huh.
the juice, they have a dipper.
Yeah.
Everybody drank out the same
Same
dipper.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah, you
Help
just go
yourself.
over there and get you a drink.
Uh-huh.
Of course, that straight juice was pretty bad later on, drinking
Yeah,
that
that's right.
straight juice.
A little green, yeah. Well, you had a tendency to overdo it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You had a
The
tendency
best time to do that was early in the morning because they'd come there before daylight, I think, and start squeezing to make that juice because he had 2 barrels, one barrel after another to get the right amount of backup. And it'd be cold if you drank it early.
Yeah,
It was nice and cold.
yeah.
So what happened to that syrup making?
Well, it's a lot of work to do cane and,
I'm sure I would guess the big mills or corporations or, like everything else, they probably got to where
they still
it
do
wasn't
it.
worth it for a small time deal, but he's talking about the thickness and the sweetness and all that. It had to be just right.
Yes.
If you put it on your front porch like we did, and people would come from Dallas and get 2 buckets and put $6 on the porch. That's the way we sold it. What was, the
And
surplus.
what was it called, the name of the place again? The syrup place?
Just a syrup mill.
Oh, okay.
Right here in Edom.
Okay,
They just
so it
referred to
didn't
the
have
syrup.
a
Now, there was 2 or 3 others around that,
Yeah, there were.
Yeah, there was.
that made syrup and all, but his dad made a lot. And of course, the bottom land down here is what was the key. I think that's called East Fork Murchison Creek.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
And, that's just great bottom land for doing cane, and then, of course, the creek itself has water and takes a lot of water. They had to pump water out and pump it into the rows, and it's a big deal. In fact,
You just
Do you-
reminded me of another story,
do you remember old Ray John?
of course.
He didn't come in here with y'all, did he?
I think my grandpa may have brought him from Alabama.
Yeah. He was a black fella, first one I ever seen in Edom.
What was his name?
Talk about Gray John?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what was his name, John Gray, or was it just Gray John? We called him Gray
John's all
John.
we knew.
Yeah. And I think he had a son named Johnny, and a daughter named Patty.
Yeah, and he had a nephew,
Sassy.
yeah,
Now, my mother used to tell me Sassy
can't,
would come and, help with the babies, or
yeah.
sweet feed.
Yeah.
And Sassy had such a big belly and short leg that she'd have to hold the baby or it'd slide off her lap.
Slide off her lap, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I remember Gray John, when I was a kid coming to town, he wore no big blue jean jumper.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Oh,
big
they all-
pockets, and he had bubble gum in it. He'd give me a piece of bubble gum, I'd be sure to make contact, cause I wanted that bubble gum. And
And then there was Weldon. Weldon, did you ever know Weldon?
I just know the name.
Okay, Weldon, something was wrong with his legs and he had to crawl on his knees.
Uh-huh.
Weldon could ride a horse. He would jump, he could catch hold of the bridle and somehow jump up on that horse.
I've seen him grab that, Bud Gunner told me that he'd seen him grab the horse's tail and heave himself up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about
I
now.
don't
Weldon.
remember him.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, didn't somebody threaten to cut his throat here in Edom? And
Oh, I don't doubt it,
yeah,
yeah. There was,
local that used to live right along here.
yeah, there was a lot,
Mhm.
yeah. A lot of stuff went on in Edom.
And I don't remember who stopped it, but somebody stopped it, and
Yeah.
he got on his horse and headed out to Brownsboro. So,
And never came back.
and never came back, I imagine, yeah. Well, the horse riding deal, your dad told me this, that he understood that the way Edom got its name was, they were holding a little revival up here on top of the hill, going out toward Brownsboro, past the blueberry farm. And, a couple locals, three or four locals was out riding horses and they rode it in under the brush arbor and disturbed things, and the preacher referred to them as aggravating mean people from the Edomites. And,
That's true.
in the Bible, and that,
It's a true story.
well,
Yeah.
that's
True
what
as
he-
we know it, huh?
well, it's as true as I know it, yeah, that's the disclaimer. And, but I full well believe it could be it, because
I,
It's-
yeah, because
the shoe seems to fit, so,
Yeah, it was Hamburg before that.
yes, it was
Yeah.
Hamburg. Mhm. And I don't think Edom was situated like it is.
No.
That post in front of your yard, that's a signpost, ain't it?
Yeah, and talking about this road that come through here, this was the Dixie Highway.
Highway,
Yeah.
right, uh-huh.
Went from Shreveport to Dallas,
Mhm.
through Edom. And it was not paved,
No,
no,
because I used to play out in the road.
yeah. And my mother owned the first car here in Edom, and, it had glass windows. And she would give everybody a ride, except, a gal farmer. And
Really?
he said, I'm not riding in that car, so that thing turned over and cut me all to pieces of that glass. So, that,
Well, you
They didn't
seen-
have safety glass then? I guess not.
I guess
You
not.
seen when he come into the barber shop before, hadn't you? That old Jeep he drove? He shifted out of gear down here about, before you get to Lois Giles' house, before you get to where, Terry's son, Toby Thedford, built a house back in there by the old gin lot.
Yeah,
He shifted out of gear and started letting it coast. And it'd nearly be down to nothing but a crawl. And he'd turn in front of the barber shop and kind of bump up against that porch a little bit and stop it. Then that'll break. So that's reading his, and I've seen him put his foot out on the ground and drag it a little bit. He thinks he's running a little bit too fast. And
You know
once
what-
he knocked that post forward about 3 foot, but luckily it stayed nailed at the top, so we just took a hammer and drove it back under it and secured the awning on the porch. But he's something else.
Now, you
My
t-
God, I never knew that thing didn't have brakes. I'd have got out of the way more.
Well, it didn't have no brakes for a
Yeah.
good while
You
there.
know what they call that old car? Old Skin.
Really?
You know where they got the name Skin? Something happened to the engine and they didn't have a gasket. Bernie Snip cut a piece of skin.
Yeah, leather.
Leather.
Yeah.
And, made a
Made a gasket
for
out of
it,
it, yeah.
and they call it Old Skin.
Yeah. Mhm. That's about the most he ever done.
And where was the barber shop?
Right there where what is in there now?
It's one of those pictures there, isn't it?
Do-it-yourself place right over there.
Right this side of the birdhouse, yeah.
Yeah, that's what reminded me a while ago about the old, original use of these buildings. The guy, Jason or Justin, which one is he?
Just Jason.
Jason is running it now, and he came over here, and I was over there, and I told him the barber chair used to be right there, and he said, "What do you mean, barber chair?" I said, I told him this is where I got haircuts, when I was growing up, and he didn't know it hadn't been a barber shop, and I said, "We got to tell these people
Yeah.
what some of these buildings have been through.
Yeah.
Some of them been through 5 or 6 different iterations."
Yeah.
Mm.
That's a great
Yeah.
story.
Well, he had a mirror sitting up there with that Hardford deer on it.
Yeah.
I'd give $100 for that now. Boy, I'd like to have
All
that.
of these,
Do y'all
lot of
remember
these
where-
pictures here
where
are
the
to the
Stewart
old,
Store was, the grocery
You know,
store, the Stewart store.
Stewart store.
huh?
Stewart store.
It was probably gone before, cause they moved it
Yeah.
to Chandler, to Brownsboro, but.
I don't know, I've been in it at
I got
Brownsboro.
some pictures of them moving it with the mules.
Is
Earl?
that Wise now?
No, it
No,
was.
no,
was
it ain't
further
Wise. Oh,
down.
no,
It was like by,
no.
they put it down there by where the fire station is.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
they just tore it down in
Well,
the eighties.
didn't they live in that old house up here?
Stewart's, that was
That's
top
old-
of the hill.
yeah.
Almost the other side,
Yeah.
where it goes down.
How are we, Mac and Mank?
Making Man at Ellis.
Right.
They're his
So-
mother's cousins.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to think of how that all
Yeah.
went.
Well, let's see. Where is it?
So
One of
you're
these
Mac
here-
and I'm Mank, is that right? Or did I get it backwards?
Mac and Matt, yeah.
I know which one was mine, one is mine.
I don't know.
Mr. Farmer would go
We're
out
opposite
at lunch,
of-
go over to Rufus Boyd's, get him a hamburger with double onions. And back then you could buy, I guess it's a 20-ounce
Okay,
Coke,
this picture right
bigger than normal.
is.
And he'd drink one of them and come out on that
Middle part of this.
front porch,
building.
and he'd burp, and you could hear him plumb to Brownsboro.
It's just this part, right?
I always hated to have to get a haircut after he eat
You
lunch.
talking about Rattler?
Huh?
Rattler?
Rattler, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And he had an old well back there, and he'd sweep that hair up and throw it in that old well.
Sips is this.
And us
building.
boys would come by about once
But
every
is
2
it facing
months
that way?
with a penny box of matches. We'd light that box of matches, throw it on that well and take off, and
Right up.
boom,
On the hill?
had methane gas in there.
Yeah, it's that way.
And steam,
Yeah.
that hair singeing, you know.
This picture right here.
Lord, it stunk.
My
Oh,
uncle-
me.
That's behind
My
me.
uncles and my grandfather is in there.
I don't remember, if he'd have burped on the porch, that's one thing, but if it's when he's giving you a haircut,
I know. Well, you know, mine, your grandpa, Grover Cleveland, would go there before lunch, get a haircut, and when he'd get done, he'd say, "I'm going over here and get me a burger." Papa would lean back and take him about a 30-minute nap. He'd just sit there and sleep. When he come back, he'd run him out, you know, and send him on his way. But, times are different.
I
Sure
missed
were.
out. Was you talking about the barber shop?
yeah,
Okay.
Rattler.
About Rattler?
Rattler and his double onion burps, that.
Oh, yeah, and they take the
Leather.
powder, and boy, this bill,
Well, you know, there's a lawsuit now on that. All that.
yeah. Boy, he had powder
Quit
all
breathing
over
all
him.
that.
Yeah, talcum powder.
Y'all know how he got his name, don't you? That rattler.
Who, Gal Farmer?
Yeah, he's down there in that bottom and killed a big old rattlesnake and brought it in.
That was the rattler you're talking about.
That was Rattler. There's a different, that was Rattler. Well, I knew the one that was Gal.
Is
Yeah.
that acceptable
That's,
story
that's
to
what they
tell?
called him.
No,
No,
They-
they had a dance, and Mr. Rattler, you know how they would walk a girl around well,
Spin the bottle.
spin the ball.
Yeah, now you're talking.
He and the girl was the daughter of the man that was giving the party.
Yeah.
And
Typical.
he got a little bit fresh with that girl,
no.
She come
In
in
the dark.
come in telling her dad he got the shotgun. Woo! Gal jumped on his horse and was gone, and then they started calling him Gal.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Huh. Well,
you never stop learning.
no, that's
I
right.
learned a new one there.
Well, he had that old Jeep, and he'd get me to help him feed his cows. And he had about 30 cows down there. Y'all know where Bill Tompkins had the little vegetable stand on? He owned that land back in there. And still, I guess they still own some land on further back, don't they? Don't Joe Tom have it?
Yeah.
And I don't know, he probably had 30, 35 head in there, cows. He put 2 bales of hay on the back of that. I'm talking about square bales now. And we'd get out there in the pasture, and of course, them old cows was about to knock that Jeep over trying to get something to eat. And I clipped a wire with some pliers, and I started jerking that string out, that wire out. And he said, "Oh, no, wait a minute." And I said, well, what's the deal? Don't you want to feed them? No, I'm gonna get back in and drive. You just throw out one bead at a time. A bead is when that machine packs that hay.
About that way.
Yeah, about that wide. I throwed out about a good half of that bale. He stopped and he said, tie it back up. I tied it back up. I said, well, what about this other bale? No, we'll do that next day or two. I don't want these cows to bust a gut now. I said, man, they're already poor. They're about half starved. But he's something else. He liked his baseball. He did do that, and he had that son. He was a pretty good player. He was High Point man in Van for
Joe Tom?
for several years.
Yeah, he was.
I still talk to him some, but he's getting weak.
Do you ever know
Oh,
Spot Stevenson?
break time?
Who?
Spot Stevenson?
Spot.
Spot.
Yeah, and his kids too.
Jimmy
Jimmy and Gaston.
Gaston?
Hey, guys,
I went to school with Gaston.
I thought they were gonna cut us off, these producers and directors here. It's just they wanna take a break.
Oh,
We're
Oh,
okay.
is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to thank you all for coming here today. And Buddy, I understand that you also have an upcoming event. You're gonna talk about the sawmill
At the cemetery.
at the cemetery. When is that gonna be?
11th of May
May
at
11th
11 a.m.
at 11 a.m. So y'all
It
get
lasts
that
about
in?
2 minutes, so don't be there late.
Well, I have a feeling it might last a little longer.
No, if y'all don't ask no questions, we'll get through it quick.
I'm gonna make a long list of questions.
You know, you got a picture too in the
Yeah.
museum
Oh,
of you
for me.
at the sawmill. You didn't
Yeah.
know that?
Yeah, I probably know. I probably got pictures. I probably got
Okay.
the same.
We're gonna go
pictures.
through some of those. We're gonna take a break for like 15 minutes and go get a little drink and come back together and just do like a closing, so y'all can have think about one more story each maybe, and we can do that. It's 3 o'clock, so we'll come back together at about like 3:15. Is that okay with y'all? Don't you run away, buddy. Don't you run away, Gary.
I won't,
Don't you run
Okay.
away, Larry.
I got no place
You
to
look
be
at
go.
right
old
back.
people. We ain't neither one of us can run.
Well, it would be pretty to watch though.
Yeah, I bet so.
All right.
y'all need to
See
be-
y'all have, everybody get you a drink
Y'all didn't mention
or a cookie.
the
All
old.
the calories are out.
You didn't mention the old Masonic Lodge behind the store.
Oh, no.
You should have mentioned that.
Behind the store.
Behind the Rufus's there, down that toward the old, what house is it? Foster House?
I didn't know about that.
The log cabin old Masonic Lodge met there. Ben Wheeler met there for a while. Yes, and there was a schoolhouse. I think it was a one-room schoolhouse for a while. I thought y'all played in it.
Now, there was a barn back there, that might have been it.
That was it. It was a log.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah.
That was a Masonic Lodge and a school building there at one time. I
Is
don't know
that
how
on-
long.
It's on this side of the Foster house or the back of us?
It, on this side between the Foster, if you come from the Foster house front porch toward the back of Rufus Moore's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kinda in the edge of the
Oh,
woods
okay.
there.
We were playing there one time and, shooting, nigger shooting.
See Sharon
And
tonight.
Yeah.
Billy Jack Carner.
Yeah.
You never,
Oh, yeah.
Billy Jack hit, Fallon,
Johnny,
Johnny Fallon.
in the eye.
And put it out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, put it out. Johnny only had one eye after
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I know Johnny, yeah.
Yeah,
Is he still living?
as far as I know. And you know, I think Billy Jack is still living.
Really?
Yeah. You remember Billy Jack?
Well,
Man.
well, he
You
must
know,
be pretty
when-
old.
when Papa lived there in the old Foster house there, he had no bulldog, old Queen, tied to that pecan tree out there. And she'd dig out holes in the ground. And I've been up there with Mama, and she'd have 8 or 10 puppies at least.
Yeah.
Well, it finally got up to 12, then 14, then 16, and then Cobb said 18. I don't think a dog can have 18 puppies, can it?
There's one recently had 14, I know.
Yeah.
So they can have 14.
Well, I was always scared of her. I was afraid she'd bite me. It's part or mostly bulldog. But that's a kind of an in-house or in-family lie. I think it just got bigger and bigger
Yeah.
and bigger.
I tell you who had a bulldog, as you going up the hill, what's his name?
Lawrence Grove?
No, across from where, Tinker lived.
Bale? Joe Bale?
Joe Bell had a bulldog.
Yeah.
And I would go up to play with Joe Tom and Ross Granger, and there was a ditch.
Yeah.
I'd crawl up that ditch till I got to the
You
top.
scared of that dog?
Oh, man, you were scared of that bulldog.
You know, old Joe decided he's gonna keep old Buck from reaching over the fence. He hooked the electric wire to it. The next morning it got kinda damp and old Buck's front feet was in that wet grass. He leaned over that fence and it killed the heck out of him. Electrocuted him. Yeah. Yeah. He'd heard people talk about electric fence.
Wallet, I need some coffee.
And, anyway, Joe he was something else. He was the local
So
horse
who
breaker.
electrocuted, who was electrocuted?
Joe Bale up here.
Yeah.
Electrocuted old Buck, his saddle horse.
Oh, well, he
He-
must have hooked it up to full power.
He did.
Oh,
He just heard people talking about electric fence, so he
Oh.
just took a light bulb out and put it in a
Oh,
deal
hell.
or something. Yeah, he had it.
110,
Yeah. It
He-
killed the heck out of him.
I understand he was actually a real cowboy, right?
He was.
Yeah.
He'd train horses and he'd carry them over here toward B. Youngblood's place. And he'd take them young horses and he'd take 2 saddle horses. And he'd put a lead rope on that colt. And he'd walk him through that old thick sand. He wouldn't let him run. He'd just walk. And when he wore his saddle horse out, he'd get on the other one.
Yeah.
And he'd carry him some more. And about 4 hours of that, and his tongue was hanging out. And he'd throw a blanket on him, a saddle, and he'd ride him.
right?
Yeah.
I
He'd
tell
wear
you
him out.
another cowboy they said, you remember,
Buddy Bird.
Buddy Bird?
Yeah.
Buddy Bird was, they
Tooter
said,
Hollifield one cut his throat and made him drink that blood.
I thought Buddy Bird killed somebody.
I don't know, he could have.
I
He
think-
always had a bulldog and that whip and rope and gun and horse.
He was, from what I hear, he was probably the worst guy in this whole area.
This is Buddy Bird?
No.
Tooter Hollifield.
Oh, Tooter.
Tooter Hollifield
Tooter
was, yeah, he's
Hollifield.
crazy.
He killed you. Yeah, everybody was afraid of him.
Absolutely. I'll show you that check sometime. I think I can still find it. I got some information that I just verbally picked up and handwritten on some old notebook about who all is on that service station up here, this old mobile station, the different people.
Yeah,
Which mobile station?
Well, the
Right
one
here.
right here on the corner.
right here.
It's
Dwayne Nips.
mobile or whatever, at last town it was
You talking
mobile.
about Pat Boyd?
Well, Pat's was there, yeah, one
Yeah,
time,
Pat Boyd.
yeah.
I-
And wasn't there an old man Ingram or something that owned that?
It could have. You know,
One of them's the one that said that, was telling the story about, strangers come in there, of course, didn't have no bathroom. And they asked for a bathroom. And the old man couldn't hear well, and he thought it said swish broom.
yeah, I've heard that.
And, he said, no, I ain't got one, but here's our air hose, you can just blow it out with this air
Yeah,
hose.
just back up here and
Yeah.
just blow it out.
Oh, my God.
But there's been a lot of people on that thing.
She's bringing it to me.
I don't guess he left that camera on, did he? Man, we're
I
in
don't
trouble.
know. We
This looks
probably,
like it could be on here.
we probably in trouble anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
I didn't know that you were gonna film this, I wouldn't even showed up.
Oh, I should
You-
have told you that.
Yeah, you done, hell, you done it on purpose, I know what you done.
Yeah.
You owe men there beer.
Let me show you something here. That's coming.
Dang, I can't get over Sonny.
You know where that was?
I can't see that well enough to tell. Old cafe on the left.
Okay, the Experience, you know, the, Jordan store,
Yeah,
set right here.
okay,
There's a building. That was my Uncle Med's barber shop.
okay.
And that is a cafe. I don't know who ran it.
There about where the sailor's house is?
Between
Where the
there and.
little
Sailor's
switch-
House. Well,
phone
Sailor's
switch-
House, you can see a little bit.
Yeah,
Probably about where that switch box.
Yeah.
boy, I don't remember that.
I don't either.
Oh, I don't either.
I remember,
Oh.
Papa lived in somewhere in there,
Huh,
some
probably
building
one of
that
them
was
old houses there.
short time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Well, no, there was a shoe shop here, wasn't it? Shoe repair,
could have been.
right along out here. Yeah, mama. There used to be you could go behind these buildings, drive behind them.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
no doubt about it.
yeah.
And there was a
I
shoe.
had a picture of mother holding a baby right behind the
You.
post office.
It's you, Joanne told me.
Oh, really? Right behind the post office there. Yeah, they could go back there.
Mm-hmm.
God, a lot of change.
Mm.
Okay, has anybody got a picture of Cade Lumber Company?
No, I don't. But you know, we was a fool for not taking a picture of it before they messed with that old building over here. You could still see Cade written up on the gable up there.
Could you? I remember
Yeah.
that real well. Cade Lumber Company.
Yeah. And Henry Cade. Now, that house down here that Will Hyde is renting across from me where Joe Pritchett had the barber shop,
Yeah.
right across from my gate. That was Louise and
Will.
Alton Cade's honeymoon home. That was built in, I don't know, 1929 or something, way back there. But that was their honeymoon home. And then later Jim Dyke bought it. And
Jim
then-
Dyke.
Yeah. You know, he had a glass eye. You take that old eye out and you don't see it, man, I'd run backwards. I don't see no eye.
Is
Oh,
that the
man.
one that was escaped from the nursing home, Jim Dye?
I think it might have been one of his kids that escaped.
Oh, that was, yeah, Jim Dyke.
I thought it was, he was in the nursing home van.
Yeah.
And
Here
he,
you go. No, Jamison.
That was,
That was, no, that was Eddie. Wasn't that Eddie?
no.
this is way back.
Way back.
Way back? Curtis?
Have a good visit.
Huh?
Wasn't Curtis?
No,
Yeah,
that's.
further than that?
Yeah,
Well, there's only
When I
Jim,
look-
Curtis, and Eddie.
Yeah.
3 generations there.
yeah.
So Jim would have been the oldest one
Nice
there,
up there.
that I know of.
Mrs.
Jim
Murphy,
Cade,
Jim Cade.
Oh, that's
Oh,
Jim
okay.
Cade, yeah.
So that seems to be
Miss
the main
Murphy would
thing.
tell me all those stories.
Jim Cade could take a broom,
Spring with the blue
put it in his hands like this,
Mickey's told me that.
and jump through it, and turn around and jump back through it.
he could.
And we tried it, I couldn't, and Cletus jumped through it and stepped on the broom, broke the broom half in two. Yeah, yeah. That old man was something else.
Are you talking about Rufus?
No, Jim Cade, he's an old timer here.
See, I'm a Cade.
You a Cade?
I'm a Cade.
You
I'm
can,
a Cade and a Stewart and an Ellis and a McKinney. I'm kin to all the
I
Cades.
didn't know.
was you kin to old man Henry Cade that had the lumberyard here?
Yes,
Alton,
yes.
Louise?
Yes. My daddy was
Louise, my
Freddie,
teacher.
my grandfather was, I'm having a weird thing right here.
You can to Jim
His
Cade.
name was A.D. He didn't have anything besides that as a name.
I don't know what
And then
kin.
his father is William,
Uh-huh.
and.
You know
so-
old man Jim?
Alton,
Did,
yes.
I mean, you knew about,
I'm
no,
saying I'm related to all of them.
yeah.
They're all the same.
What was that Cade boy that come off the bench there in Chandler when he was playing high school basketball?
Sonny,
Uh,
Sonny Cade,
that's not, don't sound right. Somebody got hurt and he went out there and
Charles?
shot. What?
Charles,
No, I know Charles.
that's my uncle.
He used to be my repairman.
Yes, that's my uncle
Oh.
Charles.
Well, I can't think of his name. But he shot one free throw, got to shoot a free throw, for some
My
reason.
daddy played basketball.
And he made
He
one,
wasn't very tall.
and they took him out of the game, and he's only player for Chandler that ever shot 1,000%. Shot one, made one.
Yeah, my daddy was not that tall, and he was like.
What's your daddy's name?
Freddie,
No, that's not it.
now Freddie was your daddy?
yeah.
Freddie worked at the
Gloria.
Gloria, where I
Yeah,
did.
and then he's, yep,
What was his wife's name?
Janice,
Janice,
that's my
She
mother.
was, is that right? She was in the quilt group, and that's
Yes,
how we became
yes, she's like
friends
was a
over time.
master quilter person, yeah.
Yeah.
you
She
know who
died.
dated Janice for a while?
Margaret and Louise taught me,
Joe
and
Tom.
Really?
seemed like there was another older one.
Elsie and Gladys had the preschool in Brownsboro.
No,
Those are my aunts.
yeah,
Those were Stewarts.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I knew them.
So Joe Tom.
One of them run the
dated her mother?
yeah.
dry cleaner.
Her mother. Joe Tom,
The
you
dry
remember Joe
cleaners was my
Tom?
grandmother.
Joe Tom dated her mother.
Joe Don,
Joe Tom,
I remember hearing that.
really?
So she had like, and she had a crush on some Methodist minister.
Oh my gosh.
Who
Must
was
have been
that?
Ava Jack Adrian.
Oh, no, surely not.
She named,
Lord,
Huh?
no, that was my grandmother that had the crush on the Methodist minister. Cause she named my mother, her first name is Royce, R-O-Y-C-E. So that was his name. Isn't that weird? That's weird.
That is a little.
Yeah, that's weird, that's weird in
That's
2
little.
ways.
Did your daddy know it?
My mother was super weird.
We rode the bus together at Houston Quilt Show one time.
I'll bet you know them. She went to, where is it called? The big quilting thing every year. Paducah, Kentucky.
I haven't been able to go in.
She-
I've been
6,
through
7
Paducah,
years.
but I wasn't looking for a quilt. Paducah's a pretty nice town.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I used to go
Paducah
every
what?
year.
You need to
Paducah,
go.
Kentucky.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
You should
Yeah.
go.
All my cronies have passed away that I used to go with.
I got pictures of that.
Because that's
Mm-hmm.
Museum.
Illinois is my
Yeah.
home.
I never thought I'd like to go walk through a place
Where's
that's
your
full of quilts, but I
was
did.
born in
Yeah.
Illinois.
Some of them look like
Really,
paintings,
a lot of families still.
you know,
Yeah.
elaborate paintings.
Very nice.
Wow.
And they were damn quilts on the wall.
Yeah. It's pretty too. Boy.
Yeah, I went on this
And there you go.
last year, I guess it was, on one of these river boat things.
So
Yeah.
interesting to
From,
hear people's stories.
What's it, Western Pennsylvania, that town there? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
where the 2 rivers come together and it gets big enough to be the Ohio River.
Yeah.
all the way
Dallas?
down that thing, and that was one of the stops.
Hmm,
But my favorite stop was at the racetrack deal.
yeah.
Back in the day,
You like
where
that
did you
racetrack?
work?
Well, I mean, I just like, it wasn't a race,
Yeah,
it was just that they took the tour out there,
Chevrolet?
it was empty, you know? And you walk, they'd be telling you stuff, and you walk up to that iron rail where that elaborate turf stuff they
Yeah,
got in there, it's
yeah.
not dirt.
yeah,
And you'd hear something, boom, boom, and you look up and here comes a big ass, fastest horse in the
yeah,
world.
see, yeah,
And they're practice running, you know,
Yeah.
they're exercising.
yeah,
And then the next time around, he might be walking him off, you know, trotting him down.
uh-huh,
It just stuck with me. I was so impressed.
yeah. You know, when Uncle Sam worked for Daddy, I don't know how long he worked there a good while. They'd have to make a little delivery lumber. Uncle Sam would do the driving and he let me ride with him. We went through Ben Wheeler, always got me a knee-high orange.
Yeah,
We stopped and got soda water,
yeah.
you know, and, sometimes we stop down there in the bottom, turn the pump on or off, or make some adjustments in the hose, you know, that dadgum cane business is a lot of work, man, there's a lot of manual work in that. You gotta cut it
Yeah.
and then strip it,
Oh, everything.
and everything, yeah,
That's beside bury the seed stalks from for next year,
yeah,
all winter, and then dig them up at the right time, all that shit.
yeah,
That's where it starts.
oh, yeah.
Starts the year before.
Well, now, you can still buy a ribbon cane syrup in Abbeville, Louisiana, but
Oh, I
it's
bet
not
you
the same.
You know what? One time after I came back from military, I drove by a place, you know, where there's like a fruit stand or
The
something,
picture with the
and the guy
names
was
on
selling
it?
his stalks of cane at the top on it.
Yeah,
I stopped and I said, "Well, get one of them."
yeah.
No, next to it.
I was so disappointed. I never
Really?
tried
My
it again.
grandfather, my
Well, now,
uncle,
It's just not the same.
no, it's not.
There's somebody.
Bill Tompkins down there had some time or two that
Yeah.
was pretty good.
Yeah.
But he grew it,
Yeah.
but he couldn't keep the hogs out of it.
is one of them.
Well, I
Hogs
guess
kept
a
getting in it, I
different
guess they chewing on it.
Stewart, see, they misspelled it.
Eat it, man. That's fattening stuff.
Yeah, oh,
They
yeah,
just chew that, eat it.
Jack Ellis is Larry.
yeah.
He's my relative, and then that's Gary's relative.
Yeah.
See, Ralph Stewart is my uncle, Grady Stewart's my uncle. Where's the other row? There's Ralph here.
Is that hay,
Yeah,
cotton
my
wagons?
people and your people are standing next to one another.
That's Mr. Hayes.
Yeah.
Is that the
It
hay?
just looks like Ralph and Brady were the ones.
I think it's cotton wagons picture,
He's
Yeah,
Where they lined up here,
lined
Nita.
up, yeah, yeah,
I'll have to look at it.
ready to go
Yeah.
to Tyler.
yeah, it is.
Day-long
That's
trip.
what it is, yeah. Your dad told me they'd go down there to Natchez River and, camp out for the, they couldn't make it in a day. They'd camp out down there and then ford the
First
river
of everything.
and, then go on to Tyler and then come back the next day, try to make it back.
Seeing the
So-
mosaics, and
Carry
it's
the
so
cotton
funny, 'cause
down there.
So they
Russell
didn't have bridge?
They ended up
Didn't have
teaching.
what?
Bridge?
My first year
No.
teaching.
No, there was no bridge
Was
there.
it?
It's a rock
Isn't
ford.
that funny?
Yeah.
I love her.
And if it was very high, you couldn't,
Yes.
You didn't
you had
go.
to wait, yeah.
Rose-
Yeah, I don't know what time of year, probably in the
She was
fall, when
Be
it
in
ain't
the
very
fall.
much, yeah, it wouldn't be much, wouldn't be much water.
And she'd open her window.
These-
Yeah, I
They did a
didn't,
lot of
I
fun.
didn't remember when they built the bridge
I
there.
can't take it
I
anymore.
remember
Welcome back.
knowing or
everyone.
hearing about it.
Ready?
It'd be kind of temporary, you know, it'd wash out.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Y'all are so shy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ready, Mr. Craig? We'd like to welcome everybody back to Sunday Story Time, and this is Old Duke Sunday. We're hearing lots of tales. I just want to remind everybody that we will be doing a follow-up, and it'll be scheduled, and I'll put it on our website after we make sure. But that day, we will go through a slideshow of pictures of Edom, each building, and we'll talk with resident experts about what each building served as throughout history. And then we'll do a little walk around with anybody that would like to do that. But today, we're gonna do a closing, and if we could end this lovely day with hearing at least one more kind of sketchy story about Edom. Personal request, course, it's later when y'all did the bootlegging, but, no, you talked about the bootlegger, but you didn't talk
Well,
about.
that's
when y'all
nothing
got
to do with Edom.
When y'all got.
That was in
No.
Gregg County and Smith
Yeah,
County.
Okay,
yeah,
well-
you,
That's
Wood
not
County.
a, that's
Wood
not a
County.
story for this thing.
True, true.
Bootleg there and then consumed here.
No.
But I
We
understand
consumed
that
it here.
y'all probably have
We had the
something that
money.
would fit in there, right?
Thank you very
Can
much.
you
Yeah.
think- All right,
Yeah,
well,
we
let's,
could
we
do
can't wait
that.
to hear what all, your memory of what happened is.
Yeah,
You know what, Gary and I were talking about it. Does it have to be true? It has to be true according to what you remember.
that's right.
All
Right.
right?
That's it.
Truth as we know it.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Well, they talked about my syrup mill, you know, a lot. And they dredged up some memories from back in here somewhere. And I have one more story to tell about that. And because what triggered this was Buddy talking about what a process it was from raising that ribbon cane. It was from burying the seed stalks for the next year, burying it all winter, digging it up at the right time, and a long process to get to the end result. But it reminded me of one of the processes in the middle, which was irrigating the rows in that bottom there. So one time I'm down there, my father has he's modernized, you know. He got a 5 horsepower pump, and we pumped water up out of the creek, spring creek that runs all the time, to get it up to the field level. And he'd run it down a end row, ditch. And I would have to go down there, my job was with a hoe, and open up 1 or 2 rows for it to run down between the cane stalks. And then when it reached the other end, you'd have to change it again. So you had to stay alert. And trouble is, he had told me that that pump don't have a governor on it. So if it runs out of water and you hear it speed up, you got to get it off right away, or it'll burn up. So I'm lollygagging down there at the other end of the feeder ditch that's been wet for a month. It's all grown up, grass and stuff. And I hear that pump speed up. I turn around and I hit and I wasn't a track guy like Larry was. But that day I could have set a record because I was running for that pump and down that wet ditch area, barefoot, and I was full speed, and here comes this big old water moccasin with a mouth that big. He's raised up right in front of me, and I had no choice but to high jump. I was too fast to turn, too fast to stop. I high jumped and set a record. Instead, it didn't get recorded.
And you're still here.
Yeah.
It's still a record.
Yeah.
Now, water moccasin's still confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I landed on the other side, and I was shaking, and I remember turning around. I could have killed that son of a gun, but I never found him. I scared him so bad apparently he escaped down the creek.
So Gary, you were just hitting on Larry, was at one point the fastest human being in all of the Van Zandt County, is that correct?
Oh,
Larry, his fastest, yeah,
Yeah.
certainly in the Van School District.
Yeah.
He set records before they talked about 10-second, 100-yard.
You wouldn't know it now.
And he was such a track guy
Get that water
that
moccasin back.
when they made him play football, he would jump the line instead of busting through it. He'd jump it. Sometimes it worked too.
Oh, me. Well,
Okay, my next one
Okay.
is, there was probably 2 main events in Edom back in the day. Graveyard working
Yeah.
and the voting, when you would vote. Graveyard working, that was when everybody brought their hoe, and they worked their own graves. There was no grass to speak of in the cemetery. And they eventually got to where they were serving meals and drinks. That was a big deal. Okay, the other one was the election day. People would vote here in Edom. They would take the ballots, drive to Canton. People in Canton would count the votes, and I mean, this town would be covered in people. And Mr. Davidson, he would get up on the courthouse porch and name out
Call out
all
the
of
results, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a big deal because some people was voting one way and other people voting, and there's got to be a lot of animosity sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, among it all, but,
You know, in some precincts, the cemetery work and the voting were the same thing.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but,
yeah. What was
okay.
Rose's name, voted 6 times?
Yeah, I figured that's what he's getting at.
Yeah, I knew what he was getting at, yeah.
Okay.
Buddy, I'm sure you got $100. You at least
Well,
Decide which
come
When
up
my-
with one
When my
more.
mind works, it works, and sometimes it don't work, but, he's right about that. That was a big deal voting that, because it might be 10 o'clock before they get the results back.
Oh,
It'll
yeah.
be 200 people out here, standing around,
Where were they where would he
all out
stand?
here around up
Well,
and
where
down,
did he
yeah.
stand up and say
Where's the
that?
courthouse?
Where
Yeah,
was that?
courthouse.
What's the museum now?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
museum,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
It had a second story.
That was the
Oh, yeah.
JP style courthouse there.
yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal. If you paid your poll tax, you could vote.
Yeah,
Talk about that building.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about it other than, the county finally, did they finally
Oh.
move that in for us?
Well, what I remember about it was when we were kids, it was 2-story, and the upstairs was the Woodman of the World,
That's right. That's
and it
right.
was wide
Yes.
open.
Yeah,
We didn't vandalize. We'd just go in there and check out the stuff, and we'd play around up there. It was wide open, like to the public,
yep.
and I remember that. And I guess downstairs was the
Was courthouse.
courthouse.
I mean, it
And
had.
the county probably owned it, and, because when I came back here, and Granville Jordan was the JP, when I ran, we moved the office to Ben Wheeler. When in the process, I learned that that building was deeded to the Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5 it was then, in perpetuity,
yeah.
right? And so for some reason, you know, there's always a loophole. I probably had to sign it off, I don't know. But then it got turned over to the, I don't know if it was the city of Edom as a step or something like that. But then it got deeded to the Edom Historical Society, who owns it now. Right?
What happened to the upstairs?
Oh, it got rebuilt. You know, sometime I was gone overseas. I came back and it was 1 floor. They had taken down the top and kind
Probably
of,
had damage or something, and they just,
it might have caved in, who knows? It got abandoned by the Woodman of the World, I'm sure.
one other building that I thought Larry and Gary would know more about than me was in behind, I call it the
Shed.
little pink building, the building that Pauline Wood had the shed started in it. About probably 40 yards or so, there was an old log building there, and I was told that it was a Masonic lodge, and then they made a schoolroom, or vice versa. Might have been a schoolroom, then they converted to the Masonic lodge, but they moved the lodge to Ben Wheeler, which is now been dissolved, and their business is merged with Van. But there was a big old house back there in under them big pecan trees. If y'all look back there, you see the pecan trees, and they make little old pecans. But that old big Foster house, my grandfather lived there, and then I remember going by that log cabin, and I always wanted to get up in there. It kind of collapsed. Yeah, the roof had, for sure, and I wanted to get up in there and investigate, and Mom wouldn't let me get in there. She's afraid I'd get on a nail or something. But I believe that started out as a little one-room schoolhouse, and then possibly the Masonic Lodge. And I don't know where I'm picking this up at, other than somebody has told me. When I was coming up here, I talked more to the visited more with the old people than I did with the kids, my age. I'd always had my nose in the wrong place, really. I imagine Mr. Reenan Boyd has showed me 20 times how to cut doorsteps, and I still don't know. But he was a carpenter here, a local carpenter. But anyway, and I'll tell you one on old Murph here. When we was kids out here at Edom playing in the gym, playing basketball, on the north end of the gym, at that basket down there, it was kind of a little short, tight net, about that long, on the basketball goal. And on the south end here, it was kind of a long one, about like that. And it had one string loop that was broke or loose. And of course, you know, that didn't matter to us. But we was out there, kids out there playing, and I don't know why Murphy come in there, but he come in the gym monkeying around, and he said, let me have a shot over here. And as you out of bounds, you come into the little old candy store area, and then immediately out the door of the gym, the east door. And so one of us pitched him the ball, and he shot, and I don't know where he made it or missed it, but he tried it again, and he shot, and that ball, he had a high arc on his shot and a lot of spin. And when it hit that net, it caught in that net, it went shoo, shoo, went in twice. And I ain't never witnessed something like that in my life. But that long net, I guess it got wrapped up with a spin, and it went in, spun right up this way, and flopped right back over in there, and he made it twice. Now, we didn't give him credit for it, but
That's another record.
but I absolutely seen that, and several of us seen it, and we was impressed. You don't even remember it, do you?
No.
It had nothing to do with the moonshine.
No, well, you had pretty high shot. You had a pretty high arc on your shot, didn't you?
He was quite the athlete.
Did he shoot over the rafter? There were rafters in there, weren't there?
Yeah, well, no, that gym was well built, man.
I know it was.
That old
Thank-
gym, that was another story.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
sold for $600.
He heated it with wood, had a wood stove.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the gym?
Where that little basketball pad thing is now.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
where the old gym was.
In fact, I think there's some rock steps still there.
Yeah,
Made
them
as a flower
steps is
bed.
the west door, southwest corner where them steps are. There's a plaque up there. His grandfather had something to do with that school.
Grandfather.
Yeah, he started the first
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
at Edom, yeah.
Yeah. Well, now, you know, there was a schoolhouse across the road where that old well is that burnt.
Yeah, sure enough.
And then they moved it over to about where it's at now, there in the general area, and it burned again.
Yep.
Them kids didn't want to go to school here.
We
They'd
went,
rather play.
we went 2 or 3 years in that wooden building, right? Before it burned.
Oh, yeah.
And then we
Yeah,
went
did.
in the gym,
Went in the gym.
petitioned off for a year. And then went in the one that exists now.
Yeah.
I can tell you behind that gym how times have changed. There's a lot of flat rock. Was that the WPA that helped build
Yeah.
all that out
Come
there?
off that hill on 314 there.
Yeah, well, they done something out there around the school grounds
Yeah,
too.
they
'Cause
did.
around the flagpole, there's more flat rock and such.
No, I mean, they dug them up there,
Oh, did they?
the gravel
Yeah.
pit up top of
Okay.
the hill.
All right. Well, in the back of the gym, we built us a fort about that high with them flat rock. 3-sided. So you have an entrance back over here, and we covered it with some old tin we found. And this group over here, you do you a fort. get you a fort, about 40 feet or 50 feet out. And then we took a huge rock for a fulcrum and a 2x12, about 10 foot long. And we'd put us a little rock over here, and then two of us would pick up one and drop it and bomb that other fort. And that's how we played. That's how we played for 2 or 3, 4 years until somebody cut themselves on the 10 and mama got mad and come out there and thrashed the teachers and the principal, and we had to tear it down. But we bombed one another with about a 3 or 4 pound rock. And if you hit the roof, you won. And look, we was in under now. We wasn't standing over here watching for it to come in. We was up in our fort. So
you could hear it ring.
yeah, so we hear it rain, yeah. But they won't even let you bring a gun to school anymore, will they?
No. No, you used to take a 22, prop it in the corner,
That's right.
cause it might want a squirrel on the way
Going
home.
on the way home. Lloyd, old Lloyd, lives out there to the other side of Calhoun Lake, went to Rock Hill. He said once a year they had a big deal for the family, and the boys would bring their guns to school, and they'd shoot squirrels and whatnot, and then have a big feed for the families. You know, after about 2 or 3 days, you know, whatever you could get in the refrigerator and before they spoiled. But he said we brought our guns to school. Lloyd Edwards. But times have changed now. We was in the gym, and I hollered at this kid. I said, "Shoot!" He was wide open. And my son's the ex-principal, and he reached over and tapped me on the leg, and he said, "We don't say that no more in here." Don't you say that again? I said, "Okay." He said, "You'll have everybody running or ducking."
Yeah.
But I didn't mean shoot a gun. I wanted the kid to pull the trigger, you know, and shoot.
Yeah.
No, you don't say that in the gym. That's time have changed. So,
Well,
Okay, that's it.
Imagine over. We want to thank these 3 fabulous storytellers for giving us a little bit of history of Edom, and just, we're gonna have to get back together and have another little get together just real soon, because it was such a wonderful time. Thank you all.
yeah.
thank you.
So next time I'm gonna ask you about the road back here behind all these buildings.
Josh, I don't know whether I can help you much with that or not.
Don't answer it now, be thinking.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
What?
Your brother.
Gary Murphy probably
Hey,
know
Mike,
more about
Another
it.
thing is, let's hear more stories about this road that goes through, and the 24-hour cafe, and the
You
person.
missed that, they talked about
I
it.
know, but there's more stories about that,
Oh.
I'm sure. We
Oh.
don't have.
Any stories about Battle Creek?
The life
Battle
of the
Creek?
buildings here.
Yeah, I know where
on
Battle
the
Creek is
road.
at.
Oh, there used to be a fight every weekend out there.
Yeah.
Big time.
Somebody fighting somebody.
Oh,
else.
yeah,
because
women
everybody
fighting?
Everybody that went from Shreveport to Dallas went through here,
Yeah.
and there were stories
Well,
about things that.
I've heard this called the Shreveport Dallas Interstate Commerce Route. I've heard it called the Dixie Highway. I've seen it written Dixie Highway.
Right.
Yeah.
Highway 64.
I'm just gonna leave these.
And
Yeah, because it's raining.
Porter Bluff.
Yeah. and I-
Porter Bluff Road was original. That was kind of a cowboy.
Yeah, wagon
Yeah.
road.
Yeah,
original
wagon road, yeah.
See you, buddy.
Yeah, and that's the one
Murphy,
that,
you gonna make the funeral tomorrow? No, he can't here. He done got
He
too
said he
late.
would.
oh, he'll be there.
Yeah.
He'll be
Because
there.